Warning: the Chaotic Culture Podcast is a program for mature audiences. The language and content presented in this podcast is of a mature nature that some audiences may not find suitable. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Blaze the doja, grab your loved ones and bring them closer. Extra, extra, read the poster. The KKP is taking over. Sleeping on me, better smell the Folgers. I've been razor sharp since the Motorola. Off for O, like the cover Oprah. Popping bottles, feet all in the sofa. It's a celebration, though the times is hard. It's raining blessings, give it up to God. Chaotic culture, the greatest pod. With Ked the Pro, the one in charge. But it's a celebration, times is hard. It's raining blessings, give it up to God. Chaotic culture, the greatest pod. With Ked the Pro, the one in charge.
We're living in a chaotic culture. 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 Oh, we're living in a chaotic culture. 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 Oh, we're living in a chaotic culture. 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 Oh, we're living in a chaotic culture. We're living in a chaotic culture. We're living in a chaotic culture. We're living in a chaotic culture.
It's about to be a special episode, guys. By the time you hear this will be the Wednesday before Halloween. We're in the middle of spooky season. Like, I am so excited because this is like, granted, Christmas is my favorite holiday, but I always love Halloween. That being said, let me just go ahead and get started. As soon as I can find where the heck my script is. Yes, guys, I do use a script for the introduction, by the way. I've started using that because trying to go off the top of my head was kind of, it could get crazy at times. So charge it to my head and not to my heart, y'all. Y'all know that I try to be as professional as possible. But okay, here we go. Dang, I thought I was prepared and I was not. With that being said, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast, the pod where chaos rules and Black culture is elevated. This podcast will once again deep dive into modern Black culture and how millennials and Gen Z can navigate the crazy parts: finances, music, Black business highlights, home ownership, college, sports, Black nerddom, all that and everything in between. If you joined us for last episode, we fielded your questions from social media. We can't thank you enough. We had a good time in here, got some laughs off, got some drinks off. And of course, we tuned into Anime After Dark immediately after that. So everything has just been going good. Let me go ahead and get the introductions of myself and, of course, my guest today. I'm live from the 7-5. I'm the host and the creator of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. It's your boy, Ked the Pro, a.k.a. the Calculated Millennial, a.k.a. the Cutlass Diamond, a.k.a. don't be pushing on my buttons in my Cutlass unless you cutting, a.k.a. Panda's favorite Toxic Adjacent King, a.k.a. Noop Cybot, your favorite Wraith of the Nether Realm. 843 is me, but V is where I stay. Always chaotic, never toxic on most days. Today, joining me is a very special guest who I actually met through our little anime community, or what I like to call the Anime After Dark community now. I definitely wanted to bring her on to this podcast because she has just a large swath of knowledge when it comes to anime in general. You know, Panda, as you guys have all known and heard, is very knowledgeable, but this young lady is just as knowledgeable as well. So I definitely wanted to go ahead and bring her up, as well as talk a little bit more about her and her content. So please, TsundEri, please introduce yourself, ma'am.
Hi, I can't believe you said I'm knowledgeable.
Hey, just from the conversation we had.
Especially as knowledgeable as Panda, because she's out of this world. She's so smart.
Yes.
I'm honored. Hi, my name is Erica. I have a channel called TsundEri. A lot of people call me Eri, which I really like. So yeah. I talk about anime and everything. I just wasn't expecting I'm knowledgeable. Like, wow.
Hey, I just wanted to make sure that I gassed you up, man, because every time that we talk, whether it's in the Twitter spaces that you held or rather it's on Anime After Dark, I always hear that you are knowledgeable on your anime content, at least the content that you watch, and even the content that you post on your page shows that that you ain't no noob in this joint. Like you are what you say you are. Like you have, at least what I think is that you have the information that is required to, make very good cases when it comes to talking about this anime, even when we get into deep dives. Like you, from me now, maybe I don't know, maybe you think differently, but I seem to think that you are very knowledgeable when it comes to anime, or at least the topics that we talk about.
Oh, thank you. I guess I always see myself as like, I think it's because I've been watching anime for so long that there are just things, and I'm like a weird person. I go into like Wikipedia holes, and if there's an anime that I really like, I look up literally anything and everything about it, like who directed it, who voiced who did the song, what year did it come out, what is some of the production stuff that happened, because I just go into like a rabbit hole of things and I remember everything.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who does that, so I'm not alone in that category.
Yeah, it's fun.
Word. Hey. Well, we definitely appreciate you joining us here. I definitely wanted to have you on here because obviously you are such a joy to talk to, and even when we're discussing on Twitter, it seems like it's always positive vibes. And I will admit to my audience listening, when you first hear Eri's voice, you think that she is absolutely 100% wholesome.
Oh God.
Now, I'm not saying that she's not, but there are times where, like on Twitter, if for whatever reason Eri has to go off, the clapbacks are. I'm just saying, like, yo, wait a minute. Pleasantly surprised at what I found, especially. We're going back a few weeks here when
I know exactly what you're gonna say.
Yes. Look, because me and Panda had this talk. We were like, okay, so the Cleveland Defender, when that whole thing was going on between him and the host of My Check Waifu, and of course Strange Keith of Concept Moon, about crazy. Cleveland, just the insult that you threw out, my jaw dropped. I'm like, I know Eri did not just say that.
But you know what though? I will say this. I wanted to say that to him directly. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I didn't say it to him directly is because you never know who's on your Twitter. Right. You never know who's looking. So lately I've been a little bit more comfortable being myself on Twitter because I don't post anything super crazy. And I feel like I have people that I used to work with when I was in the news industry that still follow me on Twitter, and I get nervous about them seeing a certain side of me. But now I'm like, I don't care. Like I'm grown. We're all grown. Who cares? But you never know who else is on there. So I wanted to say that to him directly, but I was like, nah, because I don't need people seeing me go back and forth with some guy who's mad because somebody said they don't want a vacation in his city.
I'm saying, like, yo, it's Cleveland. Why are we making such a big deal about Cleveland?
I'm trying to remember what I said about him.
You said, I think you said something about his kid.
Wait, can I say it?
Yeah, by all means, go ahead.
I said that he looks like his parents are brother and sister, and then his son looks like a ventriloquist dummy. I want to say something worse because he also I don't know if you've ever seen The Silence of the Lambs.
It's been a minute since I watched the movie, but yes, I'm very.
I said that I wanted to say that he looks like the type of person that would say it puts the lotion on the skin, but I was like, I don't know if people get that reference, so I didn't want to.
Oh no! I'm glad you kept that one in the draft. Oh man, I probably would have had a meltdown on Twitter. Like, wow.
It's funny because like my friends like that know me in real life that like went to college with me or grew up with me. I have friends who've known me for like 10 years, and they'll tell you like I don't go around like starting stuff with people because I just don't have that kind of energy, and I don't really like putting negativity out there. But if you come at me the wrong way, or you come at one of my friends the wrong way, I will say something wild. and it's like, you shouldn't have started it. Like I didn't want to do this.
Hey, I don't know. You know what? Bomb is if they had it coming, they had it coming. It's all fair when it comes to Twitter, especially. Like we were literally talking about this on Panda's episode. Like, yeah, sometimes people just deserve it, and then sometimes it could get a little bit rough because we talked about how Chica was attacking other people's kids because of the fat phobic comments that were shared about her. But I'm like, yo, Chica, you are in a position where you are a actual role model and you got people who still look up to you. But sometimes you just got to be careful when it comes to Twitter. That being said, in your case, because he said some off the wall comments towards Montel, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. He had that one coming to him, so it is what it is.
And what I didn't like too was that, I mean, we don't have to stay on this obviously, but I didn't like that he was questioning Panda's intelligence, because she's whether you know about, you know, her having, I think she has like 2 masters now.
She has 2 masters.
Like, whether you know that about her or not, even if you just talk to her for 5 minutes, you know this girl is incredibly smart.
Yes.
And then he was, and she's incredibly beautiful and stuff. And for him to kind of go at her the way that he was, to me, I don't know, I felt like there was some anti-Blackness in there, and that also kind of pissed me off too.
Oh, absolutely.
But, you know, but I feel like, but I mean, everybody else got him too. So that's also why I didn't feel like I had to go in on him, because I feel like everybody else kind of.
Yeah. We all banded together on that one. Like the moment he was coming after Keith and Mike Check, I was like, okay, nah, we gotta.
And I was like, over Cleveland?
Yeah, Cleveland of all places, Cleveland. But anyway, and now you guys see why I have her on here, because she's just so easy to talk to. So let me just go ahead and like start this interview here. I did want to know, of course, what inspired you to start content creating?
So let me think. So I used to be a journalist. I started studying journalism. Well, I wanted to become a journalist since I was like 14 or 15. And then I studied journalism in college. And that was where I learned how to shoot video, how to edit on Adobe Premiere, how to record audio, how to interview people, just everything that goes into being a journalist. And then I actually got, you know, a few jobs in journalism. I worked at 2 different TV stations, one in Miami, and then my second one was in Jacksonville, Florida, where I'm from. And so it was like all those things you can put towards content creating. So knowing how to shoot video, knowing how to write and report and edit, those are all things you could put towards content creating. So, and I kind of did different forms of that for work. So I was a digital content producer at the last station that I worked at. So I was creating content for them anyway, whether I was interviewing people for a story, or I covered like film festivals. I did stuff like, you know, crime reporting, investigative journalism, all that kind of stuff. So I was always doing some form of content creation for work. But what made me want to do it for myself, especially for TsundEri, was that when you're making content for like a TV station, you don't get a whole lot of say in what you're able to do, because you have to keep in mind their audience, their mission statement. You know, what is it that's going to make them money and give them ratings, right? So I was just creating a lot of content that I didn't really care about. I got to do some fun stuff too, but a lot of it was just stuff that I didn't really care about. And I felt so just drained and just not creative at the end of it. Like, I felt so bored of it. And then the pandemic happened and they had us working from home. So I was spending a lot more time at home, and it gave me a lot more time to just kind of think. I was also at this point like thinking of leaving news in general, which is what I ended up doing. So I was just like, okay, I'm at home a lot, and I have this equipment that I use for work, like the laptop. I have access to Adobe Premiere through my job. So I was like, you know what if I just made content for myself? I was looking through old videos that I made when I was in high school and in college, where I used to want to be a music journalist. So I would interview local bands and stuff around Jacksonville. So I was like looking at all that. I was like, damn, I was like 17 or 18 doing that. You know, why can't I be that creative now? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do stuff on YouTube. And I thought, well, what do I want to do stuff about? And I've always loved anime since I was a kid. And I started getting even more into anime as an adult because I was at home more. So I was able to kind of, because, you know, like work, you kind of start losing track of all the anime that's coming out, and you don't really keep up with the seasons and stuff.
Yep.
You know, right?
Yep.
Especially now, because they're releasing like 20 anime a season. So I was at home more. So I was like, okay, I started watching more anime again. I was like, you know, what if I just did a channel talking about anime? And then I put out my first video for TsundEri September 2020, it was like, I can't remember. It was like anime that inspired Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I had a lot of fun doing it because I was researching something that I cared about. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of my favorite cartoons. I got to learn all this different stuff. Like there was anime that I had no idea influenced it. Like I had no idea Cowboy Bebop was one of its influences. I had no idea that Fooly Cooly was one of its influences. So I was researching stuff that I cared about. I was learning about stuff that I cared about. I was making content about something that I cared about, and it felt really good. So I just kept doing it, and here I am.
Okay. Hey, that's
also, I'm very long-winded. So if I ever talk too much,
no. You were perfectly fine because the more you talk, like just the more content we're just gonna put out there. I mean, you know, I have no problems with my guests, you know, speaking ad nauseum about whatever. So please feel free if you want to continue talking. By all means, I'm just gonna sit here and listen because I'm a very good listener. So
that's good.
I try to be, you know, a good person about that. That being said, I had no idea that Avatar: The Last Airbender had some influences from Cowboy Bebop. I knew I could kind of tell about the Fluey Cluey part, but I did not know about Cowboy Bebop. What you just told me was like, whoa, okay, I did not know that at all.
The fight scenes specifically were inspired by there's two fight scenes that I forgot their names that the creators of Avatar really enjoyed that they wanted to kind of recreate in their shows. So there was I don't know if you remember in Samurai Champloo, Mugen was fighting with like a blind swordsman.
Yes.
Like she was a woman. And that fight between those two and the fight between who was it? Spike and I think it was like in the early, like the first couple episodes of Cowboy Bebop, it was like Spike and like some random bad guy, but he wasn't like a big part of the show.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I don't know why it's like blank. It's been like 10,000 years since I've seen Cowboy Bebop, but it was like those two fights that really inspired the fight scenes in Avatar. And then there's also like, it's never been confirmed, but there's also like the suspicion that Jet, his character design may have been inspired by Mugen or Spike from Cowboy Bebop. So and the voice actor for both of those characters, Mugen and Spike, ended up playing Amon in Legend of Korra. So it all kind of came full circle. Steve Blum.
I was gonna say, wait, Steve Blum was in the Legend of Korra. Now that I think about it,
he played Amon. Yeah, the very first villain.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, and Steve Blum is a GOAT in my opinion, man. Like,
he's an incredible voice actor.
Yes, that man has been a part of my life since Cowboy Bebop debuted, but since Tom 2 became a thing in Toonami. That's how. For those who know my anime journey, of course, they know that I grew up on Toonami, and I mean, I started when Toonami was hosted by Moltar, so I'm showing my age, yes. But
I haven't heard that name in forever.
A lot of people haven't. It's just like, dang, bro, I remember like me being 5 or 6 years old and coming home, and my brother was like watching Toonami. After he got out of high school, like he's watching all the old shows that Toonami was broadcasting at the time, like Thundercats. And my first anime that I can remember, of course, is Beast King Go Line or Voltron, Defender of the Universe, and also watching what is the other old cartoons that used to come on Toonami, man, before they started adding actual anime before Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z opened the door.
Like they played Gundam for a while, but I don't know.
That was after that. But during the Motar era, like they played like a bunch of old 1960s cartoons and the cartoon shorts. Like they played a few Space Ghost shorts. The Herculoids. There we go. So they played them, and again some Space Ghost shorts, and then of course Space Ghost Coast to Coast before it got raunchy and they had to start playing it at night, which I know that show was like the beginning stages of Adult Swim. So yeah, that's how I got involved in that. And of course, me going through the whole stages of Toonami from Motar to Tom 1 to Tom 2, where I first recognized Steve Blum's voice. And just so on and so forth, man. That man has been a part of my life since I was a kid. So he is such an incredible voice actor. And I kind of went off on a tangent on that. So
look, I don't blame you. I learned a lot. I didn't know about all those different shows that Toonami used to air. Like I knew about Space Ghost, but some of the other ones I was like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much what I guess Toonami was doing when they first started. Of course, they would play the old American 1980s and even some older 1960s cartoons. And then Voltron was actually, I believe, its actual first anime in this case, or it was the first dubbed anime that they had. And when you go back and, like I told you before in Spaces, you go back and listen to some of that old Voltron episodes. It is absolute garbage, but this is the 80s we're talking about. So yeah, it was terrible. But yeah, I was a kid. I was 5, 6, 7 years old, hype about Voltron because I was a big Power Rangers goofball as well when I was a kid. So anytime I saw mech, I was hype. Unlike some of the people in our community who can't stand mech,
which is crazy. So actually, I didn't know that until I started doing more content creating and getting involved in like social media and stuff. I did not know there was such a hate for mecha.
I didn't either.
That's wild to me.
All the mecha that I've watched has always been gas. Now, granted, there are some you're just kind of like, okay, yeah, but I mean that's for every anime. But yeah, I didn't realize there was such a hate for mech either. The only times that I couldn't stand it, or if the show was some mid, or if the mech didn't belong, and i.e. an anime that we. Yes, yes. Try not to say it, but yes.
It's the truth.
It is absolutely true. So, you know what? I was like, I could not believe that so many people out here hated mech anime. I guess because a lot of mech is geared to the political content, and there's a lot of information that comes with that. So sometimes either you're going to like the political side and maybe hate the meathead portion when it gets to the actual fighting, or you're gonna dislike the political side and love the fighting, or so on and so forth. So I guess people just really don't appreciate both sides like I do. I'm like, hey, look, I'm all for war stories and I'm all for political banter. So,
but people don't realize too, a lot of anime is, has political undertones. Violet Evergarden has political undertones. Attack on Titan has hella undertones.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I don't know, I'm blanking, but even Astro Boy, when it came out,
take that one back.
Yeah, Astro Boy has a lot of like anti-war undertones and sentiments. Hell, Grave of the Fireflies, like it's a lot of, I mean, and then that's like those are the obvious ones, but there's other ones too that I'm blanking on. I mean, 86, like the newer one. Okay, is it called just 86 or is it just 86? Because I saw
it's 86, but it's stylized as 86, but the actual anime is just called 86.
I've been calling it, like, I feel like that one person that was on Anime After Dark that called Hunter times Hunter. That was one of the funniest things ever. Hunter squared. But yeah, so like that one has a lot. I don't know, but some people are weird about it, but I feel like that adds more depth to the storytelling. Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's not an anime, but it has, it's anime inspired, but that has a lot of political undertones to it. So I don't know why there's so much hate reserved for mecha specifically.
I don't know, man. I used to be hyped when Toonami used to have the giant robot week.
Right?
That was my ish, man.
Why have all this hate for mecha when isekais are right there?
Hey, wait a minute now. I love isekai.
It's not like all isekais are bad. It's just that there's been so many that it gets ridiculous. Like there's one where it's like a guy that's like starts a pharmacy in another world. But after a while, I just feel like we can stop.
Yeah, the isekai agenda, especially with some of these outrageous titles that they have, I'm just like, okay, y'all gotta chill with some of these titles, because
you don't like when your anime is called The Prince is an awful person but also pays his taxes on the weekends. I don't fucking know, and babysits and dog walks.
Too much. Too much. Look, even that time I got reincarnated as a slime, it's like, okay, you could have shortened that down, but at least I like that anime. Like I love slime.
That one's really good.
Yeah,
I need to catch up on it.
But like all the other titles that I'm seeing, I'm just like, okay, y'all really, y'all couldn't shorten this. Like you've got Jobless Reincarnation, short, sweet, straight to the point. You've got The Rising of the Shield Hero, short, sweet, and straight to the point. But then you've got I'm trying to think of a long-winded anime name.
There was one that came out in the spring season. It was after it was like after I got dumped, I shaved my beard and took in a 16-year-old girl or something like that. But it's like, it sounds bad, but it actually wasn't. Like, this girl was homeless and he helped her out, and it was very wholesome. But it was a very long, after being rejected, I say it was like, it's called After Being Rejected, I Shaved My Beard and Let It
In
to
a high
Girl
school.
Live
Was
With
that Higehiro?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's Higehiro, but that, like, the full name was that.
I didn't know that was the full name until like I started looking it up. I'm like, wait a minute, that's the name of the anime? Okay.
And it was actually a really good anime. I thought it was going to go completely left, but it was actually really good.
And it really was. And shout out to Mike Check Waifu for putting me onto that one. But anyway, let me ask this question, because you did mention that you said that you've been watching anime since you were a kid. I told you a little bit about my journey. How did your journey begin?
I was about 3 or 4 years old, and so I have an older sister. She's about 8 years older than me. So the way it always worked out was that her old things became my things, like hand-me-downs and stuff like that. Her clothes, her old VHS tapes, all that stuff. And when I was about 3 or 4, like VHS tapes were still a thing. And she was never big into anime, but she really liked Sailor Moon. So her Sailor Moon VHS tapes became mine. And I really liked it. And then my mom, she noticed that I liked it a lot, and she just wanted something to kind of keep me occupied because both my parents worked. So while everybody was at work and stuff, and so I wasn't annoying people, because I was a very annoying child growing up. I was very annoying. I was like the typical like middle child, just very annoying. And so they just wanted something that would just keep me still and out of people's way. So my mom was like, okay, whenever I put on Sailor Moon, she's pretty quiet and just does her thing. So she made it a habit that whenever she was at the store, or Blockbuster was like not too far from our house at the time. If anybody remembers Blockbusters.
Yes. Memories of Blockbuster, man.
Right?
Friday nights.
That was the spot. So my mom, every time like she came home from work, she would stop by Blockbusters, and she would just find something that she thought I would be into. So there would be Sailor Moon R, the movie. They had the VHS tapes of like the first few episodes and just different seasons and stuff. So if she saw Sailor Moon on there, she's like, that's a cartoon. It has magic and stuff. My daughter will like that. And so she would bring it home. And little did she know that just started like a full-blown addiction after that. And then like I think eventually we just got all the Sailor Moon stuff that we could find. So she started just bringing home any type of anything that looked like Sailor Moon to her. So all anime looked like Sailor Moon to her. That's when I remember she brought home like the Spirited Away VHS tape. And
my gosh.
She came home and she was just like, oh, I didn't find anything like that was Sailor Moon, but this looks like Sailor Moon. And I remember looking at it and being like, this is not at all Sailor Moon. And I was kind of mad, but then I watched it and I was like, oh, this is beautiful and amazing. And it just kind of went from there. So it was like 3 or 4 watching Sailor Moon, and then Toonami happened. So watching Yu Hakusho, Rurouni Kenshin, Zatch Bell, all these different things. And then Yu-Gi-Oh was a thing on 4Kids or WB, whatever it was called back then. Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, all that stuff. And I didn't really know it was anime until I was about I didn't know it was anime until I was about 9 or 10, maybe 8, 9, 10 is when I found out it was anime. But before that, I just remember thinking like, because I was also watching other cartoons like Dexter's Lab and Powerpuff Girls and all that shit. So I just remember watching it being like, oh, this doesn't look like any of the other cartoons that they show on TV. This doesn't look like Dexter's Lab or Powerpuff Girls or Hey Arnold. This looks different. Like the characters look more human. The way their mouths like move and they talk is different. So some of this is a lot more violent. So I just remember I would watch anything that looked like that. And then when I was about 9 or 10, I was like, oh, that's anime. So now I know what it's called. So now I know what to look up so I can find more of it. And yeah. Oh, and then my parents got the family computer and I would just spend 8 hours on there when no one was home finding different anime to watch. and yeah, going to sketchy websites to find anime because it wasn't as accessible as it is now.
Yeah. Hey, I feel you on that. When it comes to anime, man, I think Sailor Moon definitely opened the door after, you know, watching Voltron and after watching Dragon Ball Z, and then watching like Pokemon and watching uh old when 4Kids for whatever reason had the rights to One Piece, and I that's a part of history we don't talk about, but just seeing that, and as you said, with all the anime that dropped between on Toonami, when Toonami was actually going Monday through Fridays on the on weekdays before they were exclusively on weekends.
Yeah.
Me just trying to get home and catch the latest episode, and then sometimes I had to like pop in when VCRs were still a thing and pop in the VCR and try to record the latest episodes of Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball Z, or even whatever anime was coming in, as you said, like Rurouni Kenshin. I'm trying to think of some other anime that used to come on that like had me captivated. Ronin Warriors.
Tenchi
said what?
Muyo? Remember like Tenchi Muyo? Is that how it's
Yeah.
pronounced?
Oh yes, Tenchi Muyo.
That was my shit.
Tenchi Muyo. Oh my gosh, that's why. That's all I knew that I loved anime, just because I always loved Tenchi Muyo, but I could never get the continuity of the stories until I realized that they were like 3 or 4 different continuities. So I was like,
yeah,
oh,
there's like if it just seems confusing, it's because it is.
Yeah.
I used to think it was just me, like, oh, maybe I'm just not smart enough to get this. And I was like, oh no, it's just 3 different like stories.
Yeah, it's 3 different stories. So when I figured that out, I was like, oh, okay. That works in my favor. So but yes, Tenchi Muyo was definitely a big part of my my elementary school going into middle school life. I'm trying to think of some other ones that kind of blew open the door. I used to always go to like Blockbuster and rent the Sailor Moon movies as well. And that's how I discovered that there were more Sailor Scouts than just the inner Guardians before they started broadcasting them on Toonami. I was like, wait a minute, there's just more than Mercury, Mars, Neptune. No, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and Venus. Like there's more.
There's more.
And I was like,
Saturn was my favorite.
Yes, Hotaru Tomo. Yes, she's my favorite.
I loved
definitely
her.
One of my favorites. And of course, watching that and realizing very quickly as I got older, I realized fairly quickly that let me make sure that I have the names right, because I don't want to say Amara and Michelle, which are the Americanized names, but Haruka and Michiru were not cousins.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah. You know what was funny? I don't know how my sister found this out. I don't know how she knew this. I think she was more of a weeb than she let on.
Mm-hmm.
So she told me when I was like very, very young, and like before, you know, you had access to like what the original Sailor Moon would have, you know, the original subs and all that stuff. I remember she told me, she was like, because I remember, you know, being like, those 2 don't seem like cousins. I was like really young. I was like, I don't think those 2 are cousins. I don't get it. And my sister's like, oh no, they're girlfriends. And I was like, how do you know? She's like, yeah, because in the original Sailor Moon, they're a couple and blah, blah, blah. But this was like before, you know, you could go and find the original subs. It's like before you could like, it's like easy information to find. So I don't know how she knew that. And she knew a lot about Sailor Moon that like looking back, I'm like, how did she have like the manga and just not tell me? Like, was she more of a weeb than she let on? Because now she acts like she doesn't know at all. But I remember. The North remembers.
She's probably trying to, I don't know, trying to hide that part of her life that she doesn't want to talk about.
She was really good at video games. Now she's like, you know, a boring like adulty adult. But like if she listens to this, she knows. But like she knows like I'd be messing with her. But she used to be like crazy at video games, playing Kingdom Hearts with us all day, watching Sailor Moon and knowing all the stuff about it. But now she acts like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not how I remember. I was like, that's what happened. I know what I saw.
Man, look, them early days of Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2, I would just comment and say that I spent a lot of late nights and I playing that game, and there was some times where I would get up and go to school cranky as hell because I stayed up later than I should have playing that game. But Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2 are still like one of my favorites. Kingdom Hearts 3, I love the gameplay, but the story is so
it's confusing.
but it is what it is. Speaking of which, and I'm getting into my cosplay question a little sooner than I expected, but I'll but yeah, let me just go ahead and ask that. So far, what is like, and it doesn't have to be just you, it could be anybody. What has been your favorite cosplay
That I've done, or just in general? Because I haven't done many.
Either or.
I've only done one cosplay, and that was the Kiki's delivery service, and that was a lot of fun. I like that one. And then in terms of ones that I've seen, well, like everyone knows, like, and I've said this before, I love just seeing like Black cosplayers do their own renditions of different anime characters, like especially Black women, when they do kind of Black women, or just like like Black women, or like character, or like gender non-conforming Black cosplayers who are cosplaying as like male characters. Because I just think it always looks so cool, and it's always such like an interesting interpretation of the character. There's one cosplay that comes to mind. I'm blanking. I don't know how to say their name, but D Zumaki. They have an account. Yeah. I saw their cosplay as Momo from Peach Girl, which was gorgeous. If anybody remembers Peach Girl. They also cosplayed as Tanjiro from Demon Slayer, which was really beautiful because they had like their curly afro and it was dyed red and it just looked really cool. My friend Dana, she does amazing cosplay. She cosplayed as she has one of my favorite cosplays. So she cosplayed as, do you remember it was Van something from Dexter's Lab? It was kind of like Thor, but not really.
You're talking about like with the Justice Friends, where you had Major Glory, Val Hallen, and
Val Hallen.
Okay.
Dana's cosplay as Val Hallen is one of my favorites because she looks so good. A lot of like I'm becoming a lot of like really good friends with a lot of cosplayers, and I just love seeing it. I can't remember their names because I only know like their Twitter handles, and then I can't remember all their Twitter handles, but I saw someone cosplay as Senku from Dr. Stone, and that was really amazing. I just love seeing Black cosplayers, honestly, like period. Like I just like seeing it, especially because growing up, I was lucky enough that I was able to find friends that liked anime as much as I did. Like I know a lot of people talk about like growing up, it was hard to really connect with a lot of people, especially like being like a Black person or just a person of color in general, finding other people that liked anime. But for me, I was always lucky that I was able to kind of find my ragtag group of nerds and we just talked about anime with each other, but there wasn't a whole lot of us. There wasn't a whole lot of Black anime fans in my area. Like they've always been around, obviously, like duh, but it was hard to like, growing up, you just didn't see a lot of like representation, I guess, if that makes sense. Like there's always been Black anime fans forever, especially since Toonami, but you never saw us represented a lot, at least not positively in anime for sure. And then with social media, it wasn't really a thing, that not so much until MySpace, so you still didn't really get a whole lot of representation. So seeing a lot of Black cosplayers now, it's just very affirming and just gorgeous because I don't know, they're just amazing. I don't know if that answer makes sense, but yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I'm actually glad that I'm getting to see more Black people getting involved in cosplay, and as well as being opened up to this entire community of Black anime lovers. Because in high school, yes, there were the few anime lovers, but none of them were, at least in the groups that I saw in high school, none of them were like people of color. Mainly, I would have to go and talk to people outside of my group of friends who, were into anime or who were into manga like that. And they getting their knowledge about the subjects and expanding my horizons. But most times, the Black people who I did talk with that did like anime, they didn't talk about it as much. We were always talking about different things regarding sports or girls at the time. because we're a bunch of teenagers, so obviously like and I was a teenager in the band on top of that. So with me being on the drum line, all I was looking for was, okay, I need to talk to like one of these girls out here because they don't like the band, but
All
they
you
like
drumline
us.
boys are the same. I used to be in marching band. I played clarinet. All y'all are the same. It's good to know now. Y'all are all the same.
We're
No.
not all the same. Look, I've grown, but it just goes to show that what I thought was the norm in high school, of course, now in college, when I got into the drum line, that was an entirely different story.
But you know what though, I will say I was really lucky at 15. I met my best friend. We're still best friends to this day. I'm 26 now, so we've been friends for like 11 years now. And I met him when I was 15. And I remember his name is Joey. I remember that we ended up having to sit next to each other in class, and I was like looking over at his paper because I was not a good student. I was like, I don't want to look at what the teacher's doing. What's this kid over here doing? And I looked over and he was drawing like anime characters, but really well. He's an incredible artist. And I was just like, oh, I like your drawing. And then he saw my shirt. I think I had like a Metallica shirt on or something. He was like, I like your shirt. And then here we are. And like through him, like he was like the one other Black kid in my classes that watched even more anime than I did. I was always knowledgeable about it. He was always telling me about the latest manga. He was always telling me like where I can, because this was back when anime was less accessible. So he's just like, illegal sites to go to, how to pirate things, and that made things a lot easier. Because at home, like nobody in my family watched anime except for like my sister liked Sailor Moon, but that was about it. No one else in my family liked anime. They didn't get it. I would get like made fun of a lot by my family for being really into it. So I had like this one other like Black kid just who looked like me, who was just like just as into it as I was. And then he kind of introduced me to other people who were into anime, and I was able to kind of find my tribe, I guess. And that made things a lot easier, because I always feel sad when people talk about like, oh, I used to get picked on or made fun of for liking anime, and I was like, damn, that's crazy. I'm really happy I had like my friend group growing up, because I got made fun of at home a lot for that, which sucked. But I'm glad that I was able to find that one person. Also, real quick about the cosplay question, Megan Thee Stallion's cosplay as Todoroki, that's my favorite. I just realized.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
She definitely did a dope cosplay of that. But
cool.
to comment on your story, honestly, I didn't have like people who made fun of me for liking anime. It was just kind of hard to find a group of people who did.
Yeah.
And there were some though that were like extreme. Of course, I'm talking about when I was in high school. Of course, this is when like Naruto was exploding through the scene, and of course you had those few who were doing the Naruto run in the hallways,
and they ruined it for all of us.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting here like, okay, my guy, like really we're doing this, like come on, bro. But other than that, I definitely get what you're saying though. Thankfully, my brother, again, who also grew up on Toonami, with him being 10 years older than me, he has an appreciation for anime, and he watches almost as much anime as me, though he's more, I guess he's geared more towards absolute shonen, and as well as my dad. My dad likes anime, but he likes mech and he likes shonen, and me, cool, I've expanded my horizons. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm thankful that I've had my brother and my father who are into kind of the same things that I am. Of course, my mom couldn't get into it, but my mom, we have our different tastes as well, and we share different things on the side. But yeah, my brother and my father really were just like, oh yeah, watch this, I think you'll like this, and they'll introduce me. My dad actually introduced me to not to Voltron and not to Gundam, but there was another mech anime show that I can't think of. Matter of fact, it was him who showed me Big O. When Big O first,
I remember Big O. I was thinking about that earlier. Big O was good.
Yeah. So he put me on to that. So I have much appreciation for them for showing me the light. And when I couldn't talk about it at school, I could talk about it at home. Granted, my brother at the time wasn't in South Carolina; he was in Tennessee, and my dad was taking care of his parents before they passed. But at least when they got the opportunity, we would talk about these different shows. So
it's so funny. It was like the opposite. Like I couldn't really talk about it at home, but I could talk about it with some of my friends at school.
Yeah. You never know, man. Sometimes you'll be surprised at the dynamics that you run across when you're talking with other people and how they got into
Yeah.
anime. And I'm really intrigued about your story because you were able to explore that while you were in school, whereas I kind of explored it while I was at home. So I definitely like the contrast here. Uh, Back to some of the questions here. So that brings me to, how did you get involved in HBCU anime?
That it's such a funny story. So it was so random. So I had already started TsundEri. I had been on kind of hiatus for a while because I had switched jobs, so I didn't have access to the same equipment that I had when I worked at the TV station. I had to save up money to get those things. So I was kind of on like a little brief break with TsundEri, and I think I had just gotten my laptop, so I was finally starting to film for TsundEri again. But I didn't have any content up aside from my first two videos I had done months ago, the Avatar one and the Halloween one that I did. So I didn't have anything, but I was trying to get back into it. So I was on YouTube, not YouTube, I was on Twitter, and I saw that there was a space being held about advice for content creators or something like that. And I think King Vader was in that space, or he was hosting it. I think I feel like he was there. So I joined. I was like, let me listen to it. What's going on? So I was like just doing dishes while I was listening. And then I saw HBCU anime pop up, and Evan runs the account, and he was talking. And I had never heard of HBCU anime at that point. I was just getting into, like, I guess that side of Twitter, like the content creator side of Twitter. So I hadn't heard of them yet. Before that, my Twitter was all like local news stuff. It was very boring. So I was just like listening to the space, and I heard Evan talking, and I saw it, and I was like, HBCU anime, what's that? So I clicked on it, and I just remember seeing like their feed was just really amazing artwork of anime characters being reimagined as Black HBCU students. And I thought that was so creative and so niche.
Yeah.
And I was just going through the page, and I liked the way that they engage with their audience, like asking all these different questions that you never like see like these anime accounts on Twitter, but they all ask the same question, like, what's this generation's big three, or what anime is carrying this season, or something like that. And it's like, it's like the same damn thing.
Yeah.
Or just posting the same memes, the same everything. But HBCU anime like asks more interesting questions. They start better conversations and all that stuff. And like the artwork is truly unique. It's done by this amazing artist called Ace. He's absolutely talented. And I just remember looking through that and be like, oh, this is cool. So I followed them just so I could just keep seeing their content, because I just thought it was really cool. And then he followed me right back, and I was like, oh, nice. And then a few days later, Evan had, through the HBCU account, he had posted on Twitter that he wanted to watch Invincible, but he didn't have access to Amazon Prime. So I had just finished Invincible, and I was all about spreading the Invincible agenda. So I DM'd him. I was just like, right. So I like DM'd him. I was just like, hey, here's where you could watch it. May have been an illegal streaming site, may have not been, you know, the world will never know. But I DM'd him. I was just like, here's where you could watch it. Don't tell nobody. So it's not legal. But he messaged me back, and he's just like, oh, I've been meaning to tell you, I saw your YouTube channel and I really liked your Avatar video, and I'm trying to do stuff with our YouTube and get more content up, and I really like how you do your edits. Would you want to work with us? And at first I was kind of like, I was kind of like, I said yes, but at first I was just kind of like, oh, can I do that? Like, would it, for one, can I make content that's good enough for them? Yeah, like, you get like imposter syndrome and stuff like that. But I was just like, yeah, sure. And he ended up introducing me, he added me to his Discord. He introduced me to Ace, the artist, and we just started brainstorming ideas. And then I did the Black pop culture references in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I originally had that idea for TsundEri, but then when he told me about HBCU anime and how the purpose is to kind of get people, raise awareness for, like, historically Black colleges, universities, and let incoming students know that HBCUs are an option. If you want to go pursue your education in a space that's welcoming and you're around people who look like you, HBCUs are an option, and trying to kind of relay that through anime, right? Because Black people, like, we fuck with anime. So it was like, you know, so I was like, oh, well, then my JoJo video would actually make more sense for their channel. So I did that for their channel, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And it's been great. I have so much fun working with them, and through them is how I found like Blanime and Black anime and Worst Generation and Chaotic Culture and all that.
Let's go.
And it was through them that I found out about Anime After Dark, and it's just been like a whirlwind. And this all happened in the course of the summer, which was like,
hey, well, I definitely appreciate them for opening that door for you. That is truly an awesome experience, and I'm hoping that you are not only having a great time, but that there are great people that you have not only worked with but also met through this medium.
I'm having a blast. I've met you. I met Lisa from The Wonder of Anime, Evan, Mike and GB stay cracking me up on Twitter. They are hilarious. Oh, and then yes. Panda, I love Panda. I want to work with her so badly. I love her. She's magnificent. She's so funny. I know she's like not wholesome, but I love it.
Hey, you know what? I've come to embrace her wholesomeness, quote unquote.
I love it.
Yeah, she's truly one of the people who I've told, like, I appreciate. And speaking of, I actually just got a notification on Instagram, and obviously it was her at her she was at her charter day for her sorority, and yeah, she's doing wholesome and non-wholesome things. But
I love her because you know what, I love seeing women just being themselves on Twitter. Like I love her because she's so funny. And I'm gassing up Panda, so I hope she hears this. She's so funny on Twitter. She's so unapologetically herself. She's nasty as hell, and I love it. And then, but she's also like, she's smart as hell too. Like, she's so intelligent, and she's a very genuine person. And she's cool. I like her. Like, she's one of my faves. I love her.
Yeah, hey, look, man, Panda has definitely gotten a more appreciation from me these past few days. Even so, shout out to Panda. I know you're gonna listen to this. You better have listened to this, man.
I want her to hear this. I want her to know. Like, she needs to know.
Hey, we over here gassing you up on a podcast that you're not even really a part of, but she's been a guest 3 times, so I guess she kind of holds a little spot over here as a co-host when I can't get my crew in. But it's it is what it is, and I definitely appreciate her for being a part of this podcast and just being able to contribute her knowledge. So yeah, Panda, this one's for you. So I'm glad that you were able to find the medium and whatnot. Now, because when I initially thought, I was getting ready to ask, like, well, did you attend an HBCU? Because I was like, well, you were part of HBCU anime, but I never heard you talk about your school, so I didn't know what was going on with that.
And I had asked him too. So when he asked me to be a part of HBCU anime, I was very honest with him. I said, I never went to an HBCU. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I was in high school, I didn't think I was gonna get into any college. I didn't think anybody was gonna want me. If y'all saw the math grade I graduated with, y'all would be like, what the hell?
We don't judge.
Did she even go? Did she even attend class? The answer is no. But like, I was kind of wild out when I was in high school. But I didn't think any, so like, the college I went to, it wasn't a PWI necessarily either. Mm-hmm. I went to college in Miami. I mean, I don't mind people knowing I went to FIU, and it was Florida International.
Florida International, okay.
And we had a lot of, it was in Miami, so there were definitely a lot of Black students, a lot of, there are also like a lot of Afro-Latinos like me, lots of international students. So we had students from like all over the world coming in.
Okay.
Like, we had students from the Middle East. We had students from different parts of Africa. We had students from different parts of Latin America. So there was it was pretty diverse. But
okay, so it's more like an MSI.
I don't know what MSI is.
Minority Serving Institution.
Yeah, kind of like, it was kind of like that. Yeah, but that doesn't, I mean, I guess this goes off topic, but I just really need to say it. Like, that doesn't mean that, like, because anti-Blackness is like a global thing.
Oh
So
yeah,
there was
I'm well
still,
aware.
yeah. So there, especially like me being Puerto Rican, there's a lot of anti-Blackness in like the Latin community, and I experienced that at FIU and stuff. And so like I told them straight up, I was like, I didn't go to an HBCU, but I really do love the idea of telling students like, hey, here's like a space for you to pursue your education like in peace, you know, with
Mhm.
people who look like you and who come from the same background as you, and who understand, you know, your situation, you know. And it's like a safe space for you. So I said I would still love to be a part of it, but I didn't go to an HBCU, so I don't know if that's a problem. And he's just said, he's like, well, you know, you're just helping us create content and hosting. Like, it wasn't about me, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So he was cool with it. But I think that's really important though, to let students know that there's institutions that are for them and by them, where they can pursue because everybody has the right to pursue an education in peace, you know,
Yeah, indeed.
without dealing with microaggressions and racism and things like that. Because I feel like that's something as Black people that only we really have to worry about when we navigate different spaces.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then trying to pursue your education through that can be really frustrating. Like, I was really frustrated at times when I was in college. So helping students kind of navigate that, like, I was all for it. So yeah, again, I'm very long-winded, so please cut me off
No,
sometimes.
you're
But
fine.
yeah.
You are absolutely fine. And this is coming from someone who attended an HBCU and got 2 degrees from an HBCU. Shout out to Hampton University. With that, you know, you talked a lot about the space that you were in at FIU, and some of the microaggressions that you had to pretty much fight through. And yes, as someone who attended an HBCU, you could see and feel that the space there was a little more comforting, knowing that there are people who look just like me and think like me here. But also, it was an adjustment for me, because for the majority of my school tenure, with the exception of when I was in preschool, was all, you know, pretty much majority white schools. And for me, trying to get back adjusted to being around my people it was an adjustment period, because you have to navigate different cultures within your own university as well, because
Mhm.
Black people are not a monolith,
That
and
too.
you're gonna meet people from different all walks of life, and have, you know, different subcultures within our culture.
Mhm.
So seeing how people from Cali, how they interacted, and seeing how people from New York interacted, me being from the South, how I pretty much was I'm from South Carolina, so it was like seeing how the culture at Hampton was so entirely different from what I was used to in South Carolina. Because when I went to college, when I went to Hampton, it was 2009. So we're still coming out of the oversized t-shirts and super baggy jeans era. Yes.
I remember that.
And now I'm going to college and realizing my college friends don't dress like this. I'm still over here wearing jabots and wearing, you know, 3XTs, and I need to change up my wardrobe, especially at Hampton, because it is a fashion show up here. So it pretty much, I changed my whole wardrobe around, just because I knew that I had to get out of it. And plus the phase was going out too, because now they were into the whole skinny jeans and whatnot. And
Yeah.
I saw that Cali style being brought over here, but I never went for like the full on skinny jeans, because I just couldn't. But still, you know, I had to navigate those spaces, and it was hard for me, only because it was like I didn't experience microaggressions, but I could tell that, you know, their culture is not mine. And I realized that there are some things that I want to keep as part of my culture. And then there's some things that I have to get rid of and step away from, because whereas I will always prop up Geechee Gullah culture in South Carolina, or especially in Charleston, some of the people my age, and I talked about this in other episodes too, some of them just wouldn't do right. And I realized that I was bringing those traits to school with me. So I was like, nah, I got to get rid of that. So,
and that's the thing too, is when you go to college, it's like no matter where you go, you get exposed to so many different things. So it's like, you know, when I went to FIU, just being exposed to different cultures and being exposed to like because it was like a mostly like Hispanic and Latin American school, there were a lot of it was funny. There were things that like people on my dad's side of the family, like, you know, my dad's side is Puerto Rican, so like kissing each other on the cheek whenever you meet somebody, even if it's a stranger. Just kind of like just different interactions. I thought that those were things that were only on my dad's side of the family. And then it wasn't until I went to FIU that I was like, oh, that's like what we all do. That's like a Hispanic thing. But then also just being exposed to different types of like Latinos and different, and like you said, like Black people, like the diaspora, like people from different parts of the country, like Afro Latinos being introduced to people that were raised primarily. I knew someone who was raised primarily in like Nigeria, and they were in Miami, and kind of like that different culture shock. And I had a roommate who was Jamaican, and like that kind of culture shock for her, like we're all like Black people, but we're all like from different places. We all have like these different, like, I guess, like eccentricities and like cultural difference between us. So it's like, that's why I guess the beauty of college is being exposed to so many different kinds of people from so many different places.
Yes, and I'm actually thankful for that experience that I had at Hampton, because it definitely exposed me to a lot, and it helped me grow as a person. So with that, let's see. I'm trying to think if we need to. Okay,
I love talking. So
hey, please, by all means, this definitely helps as well, because granted, I've always found myself to be like, when it comes to stuff that I'm passionate about, I'll talk anybody's head off. But there are times where, like, if I'm not knowledgeable on a subject, or if I'm just not talking in general, I'll kind of just sit back and I'll just be more of a listener. So I definitely appreciate you here, because now you're keeping me active and engaged, which is great. So and I think that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, so that I can continuously be active and engaged, so that I'm not just sitting here in my own thoughts wondering what I could do with my talents. So what's the best and the worst part about content creating?
I would say the best part is kind of, I guess in some ways, like being my own boss, sort of. So when I was content creating for the TV station that I worked at, I would have a lot of ideas that would never make it, to like, so I would film stuff that would go on the website and go on TV, and I was on TV a few times, but like I had all these ideas that just wouldn't make it anywhere, because my director would be like, that's just not what our audience wants. That doesn't appeal to us. That doesn't appeal to our demographic. Whereas now it's like content creating. If I wake up one day and I'm like, I want to do a video talking about the music references in Yu Yu Hakusho, who's going to stop me? I could just do it.
Nobody.
No one can do it. And I made that video. So that's the best part, is just being able to talk about what I want, when I want, how I want. And there's no one that can say like, oh, well, the audience doesn't care. I'm like, I don't care. I care. I care about what I'm doing. So if I like it, it's happening. I eventually plan on doing a video involving my cats that I always talk about, Sushi and Wasabi. Hey. Who's gonna stop me? Nobody. The worst part would be, I think, just honestly, so I would say the worst part for me, and it hasn't even been super bad, but it gets under my skin sometimes, is, so part of content creating also means having to be active on social media, right? So I'm active on Twitter a lot, mainly because there's a lot of people on Twitter that I just love talking to, like it's so much fun.
Yes.
And also I like that I have a space that I can kind of put out my ideas or put out my theories on something, or just talk about anime in such a big space. But one thing I don't like is that I feel like sometimes, and we've talked about this, especially on Twitter in particular, is there are people who consume content or like read something not to understand, but purely to respond and argue.
Yep.
And then they get disrespectful. And I remember, like, I posted, like, everybody has their own opinion, but I posted my thoughts on why, not everyone, but why a lot of people don't like Takemichi from Tokyo Revengers. Personally, I love him. He has his flaws, yes, but I love him. And I just kind of posted my thoughts on that. And then there are some people that respectfully disagreed, and I'm totally down for that. And then you had people that were kind of like questioning my intelligence. I saw somebody call me out my name, and I was like, over Takemichi? Over Tokyo Revengers? Wow. That's like, so like just seeing kind of stuff like that, like the way I think having so many people have like, you know, be able to see your content and being able to build a community with people, like that's one of my favorite parts too. But then the other problem is that it leaves room for people who just don't know how to act to be disrespectful. There was another thing that happens a lot, and I think honestly a lot of Black women can relate to this. So sometimes like I'll post something on Twitter that, and I don't want to sound like, you know, like I know everything, but I'll post something that I know is a fact. It's not a debate. It's a fact. You can Google this, you can look this up. I did not pull this out my ass. It's a fact. This is where this, like I was talking about the big three once. And I, full disclosure, I respect the big three in terms of, I think that was like a really cool phenomenon that happened in the late 90s, early 2000s. But they're not really in One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto. They're not in my top 5 anime. I don't think that they're bad. They're just not in my top 5, you know? Yeah, you know, I've watched a lot of anime since. Yeah. Right. So, but I was talking about like where, you know, just kind of educating people like where the term big three came from, why they're referred to as the big three and what that means. Not necessarily saying like, oh, they're the best data ever, because that's not what big three means. And these are all things that you can Google. Like you can Google why they're considered the big three and like what that phenomenon was. It's not necessarily saying that they're great shows. It's just, or franchises really, is just saying that this is a phenomenon that happened and that's what this means. And then someone, you know, was like just arguing with me about it. And I was like, this isn't a debate. This is something you can Google. Or, you know, like it's just something where it's like, I feel like a lot of times where I'll post something on Twitter that is not meant to be a debate. It's not an argument. This is something that's an actual fact. You can look it up. I'm just letting people know because it's a cool fact or something. And people will, like a lot of guys especially, will come in and either argue the same point back to me, which is weird, or like it's like we'll be on the same side but they still want to argue, which is weird. Or people getting very defensive and calling me out my name at times, which I really don't appreciate, which is really frustrating for me because I can't cuss you out the way that I want to, because again, I don't know who's on my Twitter.
Yeah, man.
So that kind of thing, just people being like assholes on social media really when they don't need to be, because I don't understand calling somebody out their name or questioning their intelligence or trying to argue them down over essentially like Japanese cartoons. You know, it's not supposed to be that serious. It's just all fun. So why are you calling me a bitch? Like, what was that?
Yeah, like, yeah. First and foremost, we don't call Black women that word anyway.
That too.
If I have to use that word, it's for context of maybe a dude, or just if I would usually ask permission to use that. But no, we no. If I had seen that, I probably would have cussed them out for you. Like, nah, we're not about to do this. You're not about to call somebody out their name just for an anime argument. Like, get a grip.
Yeah, and I usually like block people or mute people when they get like a little too wild. But that's the thing that always annoys me. It's like, you know, the best. So long story short, the best part of content creating is being able to do what I want. But I think the worst part about it is that sometimes you just have people that just want to argue and just start stuff for no reason. So, you know, I haven't gotten people luckily being really nasty or rude on my channel, like specifically on my YouTube channel, but just people being nasty and rude on social media. And it's just, whether it's Twitter, I've had people DM me like really rude things on Instagram and stuff. And it's like, over anime, like it's all fun. Like, why are we, you know?
Yeah, they want to argue for argument's sake, and they're just being rude just because they're internet trolls and they want to ruin somebody's day. So next time you experience that, you just let me know, and we'll call the squad over and be like, nah, we're not about to do this here. Like, no, absolutely not.
And it's frustrating for me because like I said before, like I'm always the kind of person that if you say something nasty to me, I'm gonna say it right back. Like I'm gonna say something crazy, you know, and I'm not gonna hold back on you because you started it. But I'm also an adult who has a regular 9 to 5 outside of this. And, you know, I don't know who's on my Twitter. I have, you know, I have like, you know, people who still work in like the media industry who follow me and stuff. And they can't see me get too crazy on here. So sometimes I'll just be like, ooh, if this was like a fake Twitter, like the Finsta Twitters or whatever, like a private Twitter, I'd be in that ass, but I can't.
Hey, I feel that. Hey, look, if you got any insults that you want to spit out to those who are rude to you, you just message me and let me know so that way I can just say it and you won't have to worry about it coming out.
I'm like, yo, tell this man his mom looks like.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? If you got the alley, I'll throw the hoop. I have no problems doing that.
People just are just weird about that. People are just so weird on social, and that's the worst part. It's like I can't go on Twitter sometimes and just post my takes in peace. People got to be rude about it and shit. And I feel like they do it especially to women. Like, I mean, they do it to, we saw the Cleveland guy, right? Like they do it to men too.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like with women, it's like the questioning their intelligence part is the one that comes in a lot, or people just reading our stuff to argue. Because I think there's that whole thing of like, oh, you're a girl, you don't really know what you're talking about. You probably just got into anime recently. And it's like, I've been watching this since I was 3 or 4. Please don't try me.
Yeah.
You will be embarrassed.
Yeah, you got those folk out here who are just sexist, and for whatever reason, they use that as part of their arguments. And if you have to shame somebody for being a different gender than you and think that they don't know as much as you do, then obviously
you already lost.
You're yeah. I can't speak on that. Because I've never had a situation where most of the women that I've engaged with have actually known a lot more anime than I have. So that's a blessing to know, at least those who are into anime, because if they are, their knowledge has far surpassed mine. I'm just like, man, look, I learned something new talking to y'all. One of my I don't want to call her my ex, but one of my friends who just got engaged. I'm not gonna say any names on here, but her knowledge on anime blew me out the water, and I'm just like, oh shit. And this is just me having a first conversation with her. Her knowledge on anime, her knowledge on DC Comics, and her knowledge on video games. Things didn't work out because unfortunately our times just didn't match up, and it's like, people move on.
Things
eventually.
happen. I feel that.
Yeah, but I still appreciated her just for that, and I'm like, okay, to this day, I consider you a good friend just because you put me onto a lot of stuff, and I 100% appreciate you for that. So I've never gone into any argument, or I've never had any judgment about women when it comes to their anime knowledge, because I've always assumed if there's a young lady who knows about anime, they probably know more than I do. So
and people don't realize, like, some of the most popular anime that came to the States in the early 2000s, a lot of it was shoujo.
Yes.
Like, Mew Mew Power was really big. It's called Tokyo Mew Mew, like originally, but here it was Mew Mew Power. Of course, Sailor Moon to this day is one of the most popular franchises, not just anime, like franchises, period. Nana, Oran High School Host Club, all that stuff, like Peach Girl, like we love that stuff. Cardcaptor Sakura, like we love that stuff. So it was like, so when people say like, oh, girls didn't get into anime until later, I'm like, who do you think was watching? Were you watching Peach Girl? Because we were watching Peach Girl. So like,
and I'll fully admit I was not watching Peach Girl. So
that was my show. That was my show.
Word. Well, let's get into some Halloween questions here. Yes, this is going to be the we're winding down towards the end, but these should be pretty simple and straightforward. Why is Halloween your favorite holiday?
Because Halloween is my favorite holiday because, like, if I'm being honest, as an adult, it's great. It's the best holiday when you're grown. When you're grown, it's the best holiday. You can dress as whatever you want. You can candy gets replaced by alcohol, or you have those things at the same time.
Yeah, well.
Adult Halloween parties are the shit. It's just fun. It's like, I feel like as an adult, I have such an appreciation for it because, most of the time of the year, you're at work, in your normal day clothes, doing your thing, paying bills, not having a whole lot of fun. And then Halloween comes, and now it's perfectly acceptable for me to dress up as like an anime character, or as a witch, or as a cat, or whatever. I think last year I didn't dress up because it was like the pandemic was like, I was not going anywhere. But before that, I was like a sea witch, and I made the crown myself. So like I get to be creative and dress up however I want, as a grown ass woman, and I can like drink. Well, I drink anyway, but like, you drink with friends in your costumes. It's fun.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah, and I loved it as a kid because candy. It's just a holiday that only gets more fun as you get older.
I feel that. I didn't necessarily like dress up for Halloween last year, but I did wear a Deadpool mask. And I've done Deadpool like a couple of times. So I was like, well, let me just go ahead and throw on the mask because I'm already wearing a mask anyway in front of customers. So it's just a matter of I gotta wear this mask and then I gotta put that over that. It was a little complicated, but I still made it work. So yeah, I will definitely wholeheartedly agree with you there that the when you do get to like Halloween adult parties, they are absolutely fun.
They're so much fun. Like
Yes.
the drinking games, different costumes. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. The last like Halloween party that we had at my house, this was like a few years back. I went as a Sticky from the Proud Family. At the time.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I was like, hey, look, I just needed to borrow I had a do-rag at the time because I had a short haircut during that time period. So I was just like, man, I just need to find some shades. And one of my friends was like, oh yeah, I got the perfect shades for you. So yeah, they were I was like, yeah, that's a perfect costume for me. So I was able to rock that. So I definitely have an appreciation for Halloween here. What is your favorite costume of all time for Halloween?
My favorite costume that I really like the Sea Witch costume that I did not last year but the year before, I guess 2 Halloweens ago. So I'll post a picture of it somewhere one day, but I had I like making costumes just from the stuff that I have, but also just getting to be creative. So I had like this black like kind of corset shirt that I had bought for something else, for some other party, and then I had like this kind of like sheer skirt that had like a black skirt under it, like it had like a black mini skirt under it, but then like the sheer part went all the way down to my feet. It was like a Stevie Nicks kind of skirt. And then my hair, of course, I have like big hair, so my hair was all out, and I had like these little like dots that I drew on my face. I was trying to kind of be like the witch that was in Pirates of the Caribbean, but like inspired by her, but not exactly like her.
Oh, like Teal.
Yeah, kind of like her, but not exactly like her. And then I got to, and then I got to make I had a crown that I made from like fake seashells that I had painted black and silver, and I put glitter and stuff to make it look kind of old and scary looking and all that. It lasted just that one night, because then the day after the glue and everything fell apart and I could never use it again. But it was just a lot of fun. I had like red lipstick. I looked very evil, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. That's my favorite costume.
Hey, that's what's up. That's what's up. My favorite costume was actually I was Flavor Flav one year. Matter of fact, it was my senior year in high school. I found a big Viking, because I was in theater as well. I found they had a big Viking helmet that I was like, hey, I'm gonna use this. I had the aviator shades. I had this big old gold clock that I found that I used as a chain. And then of course I bought my gold pimp cup. So I was literally, we had what's called Halloween Hoot during that year, and it's the seniors, like they get to go out and celebrate Halloween and dress up as whatever. And I came as Flavor Flav, and at the time Flavor of Love was like a really watched program.
That was my show.
Yeah, so I'm literally out there just acting a fool. Now granted, of course it was high school, so you could only do but so much, but like they were playing music out in what used to be the courtyard before that got filled in as an extension of the calf at the school, and I was just literally I was just having a ball, and that was literally one of my best and most simplest costumes. And I think it's just because of what was going on during the time period, and with Flavor of Love going on, I was like, yeah,
I got to see the picture. You need to share the picture. I need to see that.
If I can find it, I will definitely do that. I think there's one on my Facebook. I think it's still saved on there. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up, because oh boy, that was 13 years ago. Now that I think about it, good grief. Woo. But yeah, if I find it, I'll post. Yeah. Time has really gone by in these last few years. I blinked and my 20s was over. So let's see, what other questions? Okay. What do you have a favorite candy that you like to eat during Halloween, or at least favorite candy is on top of that?
Favorite candy is during Halloween. That's a tough one. I don't eat as much candy as I used to. Chocolate, honestly, in general. Actually, you know what? I really love Twix. I think that's probably one of my favorite candies. I love Twix. And then my least favorite, I know it's like everyone says this, but candy corn. I used to love candy corn as a kid. I know everyone's talking about it. I used to love candy corn as a kid. I don't know what shifted, because as a kid, that was my favorite thing. I was so psyched for Halloween because of candy corn as a child. And then I don't know if my taste buds change or if candy corn just isn't made the same anymore, but now it just tastes like wax, like candle wax. So I'm like, this is disgusting.
To this day, I will only eat candy corn during Halloween because for whatever reason, I guess maybe it's because it's Halloween. I don't know. And when I eat it, I'm just like, it's Halloween, so it's whatever. So I kind of ignore the taste. If I eat it anytime after Halloween, I'm going to be disgusted.
I feel that it just doesn't hit the same. It's not the same.
It's one of those things that I'm like, I'm gonna eat this one time a year.
It's like eggnog. Like eggnog makes sense during the holidays, but it doesn't make sense, in July.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where I can eat it when it's that time, but then afterwards, no. Unless it's Peeps. Peeps, no, goes directly in the trash. I don't care what time of holiday it is. I don't care if it's Easter. No, absolutely. I
had Peeps once, and I was like, oh, I'm good. I'm good on that.
Gross. But I'll kill a pack of Skittles no matter what time of year it is. So I think that's like my most
M&Ms. M&Ms too.
Okay, yes. I will kill a pack of M&Ms and a pack of Skittles during Halloween, like it's like I'm drinking water. That's how much I love that candy. Okay. Favorite Halloween movies?
It's like I had it and then it's gone. Hold on. Let me think.
No. Take your time. Just don't say Hocus Pocus.
I hate to say it, but it's definitely up there. I do like Hocus Pocus. It just brings back a lot of memories. But I would say I really liked so there's this really, really old movie, Night of the Living Dead, the old like black and white one. I think it came out in the 60s.
Ooh, you took that way back.
So I used to watch old horror films with my sister because they didn't have jump scares, but they were still really creepy. Because like horror films now, they have a bunch of jump scares and stuff. And I hate those because that's not scary. You're just throwing something at me. So of course I'm going to react like I'm scared because you just threw something random at me. But Night of the Living Dead was my favorite, definitely. Hocus Pocus is up there because nostalgia. I used to watch that every year with my mom. And then I was just talking about this earlier too. Oh, I really liked Rosemary's Baby. Okay. That was a good one. So those are like my I think those are my top 3. It changes, but Night of the Living Dead will always be in my top 3 for sure. That's one of my favorite films. Man, the fact that, like I said, you threw that all the way back, because I remember Night of the Living Dead, and I remember like that movie used to kind of scar me because I was not a big fan of zombies when I was a kid, and getting shown that movie as well as like the other dead movies like Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, it used to creep me out. Now when it comes to zombie movies, I'm like, okay, cool, I can handle it. But when I was younger, oh no, I was much more of a vampire kind of person. So vampires are cool too.
Yeah.
I always think it's funny when people talk about like, oh, if there was a zombie apocalypse, I'd survive. I'm honest, I would not make it.
Either.
Nope. I wouldn't make it. I'd be the first to go. I can't run with the shit. That'd be it.
Hey, I used to be able to run, man, but when you get out of college and you start working and you don't, get to the gym like you used to, it starts to catch up to you. So,
right.
Speaking of which, I'm glad I'm going back to the gym, but it's just still, at this 30-year-old me would not survive the zombie apocalypse. 21-year-old me might, if we're talking about outrunning somebody.
21-year-old Erica probably would, because she was crazy, but like 26 going on 27-year-old Erica, it's like, I'm tired. Y'all just gonna have to get me. Y'all just gonna have to eat me. I can't.
Goodness. Yeah. Or if it comes to the point where it's like, take me out before the zombies get to me, because I don't want my body running around like as a zombie. I'll probably be like, yo, just take me out. Take me out, bro. Like if it comes to it, if I'm about to get attacked and I have no way out, just go ahead and just off me.
Just unalive me.
yeah. Just go ahead and take me out, bro. I'm good. All right. Favorite spooky anime, if you have one.
I do actually. I have a few, but my number one is I have 2, and I'll try to keep it short because I know I'm long-winded. Hell Girl. If anyone remembers Hell Girl. So I love that one because like just the it was scary because obviously the things that she would do to like torture people for sending them to hell was pretty scary, but also just seeing the scenarios people were put into, terrifying. And then ghost stories, particularly the English dub, if anybody knows. Do you remember that one?
I don't know if I remember Ghost Stories. I do remember Hell Girl, but I don't know if I remember Ghost Stories. I might have to dig that one out the crate.
So let me tell you why you should watch Ghost Stories. So the plot, and I'm actually going to talk about this in my YouTube video too. So like the plot of Ghost Stories, it's about these kids that live in this town that ghosts are starting to pop up because of industrialization. So like they're building over old cemeteries and all this stuff. But that's not what's important. What's important is that anime, when it aired in Japan, flopped. It flopped. Nobody in Japan cared for it. The ratings were horrible. So the Japanese studio that produced it, they were like, okay, we're gonna give the distribution rights to Funimation, tell them to dub it. And then they told Funimation, they're like, listen, we don't care what you do with this show. Because typically when studios give an anime to Funimation or whatever dubbing studio to distribute it, they kind of tell them what they want, what they're expecting.
Right.
Which is why some dubs will come out the way that they do. But in this case, they told them like, look, we don't care what you do with this show. We're just trying to recoup the money that we lost airing this in Japan. And Funimation was like, so we can do whatever we want. And they're like, you can do whatever you want. So what they did is they dubbed over it, but it was ridiculous. So they did like, it's like, and they did this on purpose. It's like South Park. The humor is like South Park. They took an anime that was not meant to be funny and they made it hilarious. And it did so well here. And like the Japanese studio loved it so much. They actually, now don't quote me on this, I could be wrong. My friend told me this, so I could be wrong. My friend Joey, who knows even more about anime than I do, he told me that it was so successful that the Japanese studio actually ended up re-releasing it with a new Japanese dub, but it was closer to the English dub this time to make it funnier, because that's how much they loved it. So Ghost Stories, it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. But a lot of the jokes wouldn't fly now, but it was definitely like early 2000s, like South Park humor.
Okay. I might have to check that one out. I don't know how I missed that one, but okay. Do you have any plans for Halloween this year?
I'm still figuring out. So I used to like throwing parties and going out, but I'm still kind of about being around tons of people. I mean, people act like the pandemic's over, but it's not. So I'm still kind of like, I mean, I'm fully vaccinated, but still I'm like, I don't really want to be around a lot of people. So I'm probably this year, I'm thinking of having just like a Halloween movie watch night with some drinks and some food, with some people that I'm real cool with, and that's about it.
That's solid.
And then hopefully next year I'll do something crazy, have a party or something.
That's real. I didn't have any plans for Halloween, but honestly, I'm thinking about maybe just doing I might do something for Halloween, because either that or the Saturday before, and just have some folks over and just do some drinks and do some party games, as long as we don't play Kings again, because for whatever reason, my Kings got really, really I don't want to call it famous, but it just got really, really popular at my school. And I'm like, okay, yeah, Kings was a drinking game that we used to play all the time. But I'm like, yo, what happened to all the other party games that we used to have when it came to drinks? Like, why did Kings become the default? Like, I don't want to play that no more. I don't want to play that all the time.
What is Kings? So, I feel like it's similar to a game that my friends used to play. But
all right, yeah. So Kings pretty much is you use the entire deck of cards, and you have different rules for each of the cards that you pull. The basic rules are, if you pull a deuce or a two, that means you pick someone to drink. So 2 is you. 3 in this case would be me. So if I pulled a 3, I would have to drink. 4 is floor. 5 is guys. 6 is chicks. 7 is heaven. 8 is you pick a mate. So you pick someone to drink with. So in the event that someone calls you to, if you pick a card and you have to drink, that person has to drink too. 9
That's so
is rhyme.
funny.
Yeah.
We had a similar game. It is the same as the one that my friends, except we called it Ring of Fire.
Ring of Fire.
Yeah,
I've heard that
it was
before,
the same
actually.
thing.
So yeah, it's just become so popular, and I'm like, I like playing Kings, but when you play it over and over and over and over again, now you're just like, bro, let's do something different. Like, let's get back to beer pong. Let's do flip cup. Let's do something that does not require me to have a deck of cards and play the same old game. But
what people
I
don't
mean,
know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead. I was finished.
I was gonna say what people don't know is that I'm actually like really good at flip cup. Like,
Oh, word.
I'm very good at flip cup.
Okay.
People want me on their team.
Hey, look, you doing DreamCon, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, we about to find out when we get to Arlington next
people
year.
Want me,
people
want me on their team for flip cup. Like, I'm indispensable.
Okay. I will keep that in mind. So if that game comes up, I'm like, oh no, I got Ari. Y'all like Ari's on my team. Like we gonna
you won't lose.
Okay, that's good to know, because the only time that I've ever lost, it was never because of me. It was always because of someone else, because I'm actually pretty solid at flip cup myself. So cool. That's good to know. Do you have any cosplay ideas for DreamCon?
I have a few. So the one that sticks out in my mind, I'm so bad at remembering characters' names for some reason. So in Hunter x Hunter, I always blank on her name, but she has like short hair and glasses and like a crop, like black shirt with the little vacuum thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Hang on. I'm gonna have to look at this character now, 'cause I was like, is it Biscuit? Is it Canary? Or is it?
I would love to do. I would love to play Canary, not play cosplay as Canary, but I feel like I just wouldn't be able to give that justice.
Yeah.
I know Scuba Steve's daughter was Canary, right?
Yes, indeed. Skylar was Canary.
I can't. I wouldn't be able to compete with that. Like, she killed it.
Yeah, she absolutely did. I'm trying to see if I can find the character. You said they had a vacuum.
Yeah, it was like this like big ass like, oh, I don't know why I'm blinking. You know what? My phone is right here. Hold on.
And I haven't watched Hunter x Hunter in a minute, so it's been a while.
I'm about to find her because I don't know why I'm blanking on her name, but I wouldn't mind cosplaying as her. Shizuku.
Yes, Shizuku Murasaki. Okay.
Yeah, Shizuku. I was like, it's not Shizuru, it's Shizuku. I wouldn't mind cosplaying as her. I have some plans for that. Mugen from Samurai Champloo, because we have the same hair and like similar complexion. So I feel like I can make that work. Hopefully I'll have like contacts by then instead of just glasses.
Okay.
Or otherwise it'll be like Mugen with astigmatism. That's gonna be what it is.
Hey, I'm with it. Okay.
Mugen, if he learned how to read but can't because he's blind. So those are two, and then I would probably do another one. I'm definitely gonna do this when TsundEri eventually reaches 500 subs, but Eri from My Hero Academia, and I'll probably do that again for DreamCon too, because I think that's fun. Like, because I go by Eri, her name is Eri, it's cute.
Okay, hey, that's what's up. I'm just going to say Kingdom Hearts. I don't know who yet, but I've been on my Kingdom Hearts thing for a little minute. I think with the announcement of Sora on Super Smash Brothers, that just made me go back into that rabbit hole. So now I'm like, okay, now I got to cosplay as somebody as Kingdom Hearts. I don't know if it'll be Sora or not. It's probably not, but I'm like, yo, I gotta do it. I gotta do it. Even if I have to come in as Master Xehanort, bro. Like, I'm going to do something Kingdom Hearts related, and I'm going to have one or two Keyblades that I'm gonna, bring with me. Not those super ass expensive Keyblades that you would use as a collectible, but just like something that would be not expensive but not cheap. But we'll go well with the cosplay. So I've got some ideas. I'd have to figure it out. So last question before we wrap up. Do you have any anime that you would like to recommend that you're currently watching?
Ooh, okay, so I have not been watching a lot of fall anime lately. I'm behind. I'm gonna get back into that, but
you're not the only one.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with seasonal. So I've gotten to this point where I'm like, I'll just find a select few that I like, but I'm not gonna, make it a point to watch all of it. But I would say anime that I'm watching now that I recommend. Well, I'm not. I mean, it's wrapped up a while ago, but a lot of people are watching it, but I feel like not enough. I really enjoy. So Fruits Basket for sure. If you haven't seen Fruits Basket, watch the reboot. It's a very beautiful show, especially if you're someone like me who like if you come from like kind of like a complicated like family dynamic, like it explores that in Fruits Basket in a very real way, and I think that's super just amazing. Stars Align is an anime that came out a few years ago, but I feel like not enough people talk about it. It's an anime about these boys on the soft tennis team. It's like soft tennis, but it's tennis, but they call it soft tennis. I think that's what it's called. And it's a sports anime, kinda, but it's also just an anime about just these kids that all come from different family backgrounds, and they all have different things that they're struggling with. You have one student who was kind of struggling with their gender identity and their sexuality, and they explore that in such a progressive way. You have another kid who his father is very physically abusive. You have another kid who just does not have a good relationship with their mother. You have another kid who's struggling with having overbearing parents and his mental health. And it's just a very deep anime. And I love shows that just explore those kind of themes, because I feel like even as you get older, like those themes become more relevant to you. Because everybody has different family dynamics and stuff. So those are two. And then stuff from the previous season that's aired. Case Study of Vanitas, if you love vampires. And all like, if you love vampires, if you love good music, because the opening and ending themes are amazing.
Yes.
And if you're just an adult who wants a show that you can relate to, Life Lessons with Irimichi Oni-san.
See, Panda has recommended that to me, and I'm hopping on that like soon.
If you are a grown-ass adult who has ever just been sick of their job, who has ever just felt like, man, I gotta get up and go to work again, I gotta deal with these people again, I gotta do this shit again, you will relate to Life Lessons with Irimichi Oni-san. Like, yeah. So those are definitely, I definitely recommend those are great shows.
Excellent. Well, I definitely appreciate that recommendation there. I'm definitely about to get into Life Lessons with Yorimichi-san, so
It's great.
That is on my list to watch, because I'm a little bit behind myself because work, but and unfortunately it coincided with band season, because I still record the band, for those who, I say this ad nauseum at this point, but yeah, okay, cool. That has been all of my questions, so I once again appreciate you, Eri, for coming through and spending some time with us and doing this. This has been an excellent interview, and that it has been such a joy to have you. So thank you again. Before we wrap up, I always like to do what we call Black business highlights. Considering that you are a content creator, how can people follow you and how can people watch your content?
Subscribe to TsundEri on YouTube. TsundEri. People don't know this, but I struggle to spell my YouTube name sometimes. Follow TsundEri on YouTube. Follow at the TsundEri, no spaces, on Twitter and Instagram. The _TsundEri on TikTok. I have fun on there a lot. And that's how, and then, and if you're ever on Twitter, just, I love talking to people. So if you want to talk about anime, if you want to maybe have some ideas for videos or whatever, just, I love talking to people. So that's how you can get in touch with me, just on social media.
Cool. Speaking of TikTok, you dropped a little thirst trap there.
Was it?
Your last video. It was kind of, you was like, yo, just a reminder that I'm hot. I was like, oh, Eri. Wait a minute. Let me look away for a second.
let me explain. Let me explain. I didn't think that was like a thirst trap, but like, I felt, I don't know. I feel like, growing up, I like every human being, like we all have days where we just don't feel like, we don't feel good. Like we don't feel our most confident selves. I definitely struggle with that a lot. I'm still coming into like my self-esteem and kind of seeing myself as like, oh, you know what? I am good looking. I do got it like that. Like I'm just kind of coming into that. So like, and it's tough. I got called a lot of names growing up. I got, a lot of, it was really hard. So, and I grew up, obviously in the early 2000s where everybody was like this thin and I've never been that thin. So, so yesterday yesterday I had like an interview with somebody for like, not for my channel, but just for like work and stuff. And I had on some clear lip gloss, and my like window was, I put on my pajamas and stuff, and like my window, like the light was shining in nice. And I was like, oh, you know what? I have some good lighting here. This clear lip gloss is looking kind of cute. I'm gonna go on TikTok and try this trend that I've been seeing. And I like sharing pictures of when I was in college. So that picture that was up first, that was my first day at college in the dorm. So, and it was back when I used to straighten my hair and stuff a lot. So I was just like, let me try it. I feel cute today. so that whole like, oh, I'm just a reminder that I'm hot or whatever, that was more for me. Because sometimes I forget that I'm like, oh, you know what? I do look good. So sometimes I forget. So it was a reminder to me.
Hey, well, you know what? That self-confidence goes a long way. And look, when I saw the video, I was like, yo, she's first and foremost, you are already cute and shit anyway, but seeing that video, it was like, okay, well, moving on. but okay, I definitely appreciated it regardless here, ma'am. So I again but anyway, as she said, please sure that you follow her on all social media, and please be sure that you follow her YouTube page. With that, shout out, of course, to our anime community, especially the Black anime content creators and Anime After Dark on Clubhouse. Please be sure that you follow the website, follow the Twitter page for Anime After Dark, and please sure that you follow Blanime Podcast and Worst Gen Podcast. By the time you hear this, hopefully they would have already gotten to 5,000 followers, but still follow them anyway. With that in mind, definitely follow Mike Check Waifu. Those three I will always hype up because I am a Patreon of those three podcasts. So definitely be sure that you check those out for your anime content. With Absolutely. That, yeah. Excuse me. Be sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Khaotic Culture Podcast. You can follow us on Facebook and like us on Facebook at Khaotic Culture Podcast. Please be sure that you follow us on Instagram at Khaotic Culture Pod, and you can follow us on Twitter at Khaotic_culture. You can follow me, Ked the Pro, that's K3D the Pro, on all social media. You can follow my co-host Nasa on all social media at _call me Nasa, and you can follow my other co-host Law at L.jr_96 on Instagram, and you can follow him on Twitter at Law96 _. Please be sure that you subscribe to us on your favorite streaming platform, but also please be sure that you subscribe to our Patreon account on any of the 4 levels. It does not matter which one. We still appreciate your support here. You can follow our Patreon at patreon.com/Khaotic Culture Pod for any of the early content. With that in mind, once again, I definitely appreciate Eri for coming on this episode and doing our Halloween/anime episode. I once again appreciate her so much. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Khaotic Culture Podcast. As always, be blessed, be safe. God is love. Deuces.
In these streets, so let's talk about it, please. Let's hold some conversation. You see where I'm coming from. Yes, it's so amazing. Go ahead, get comfortable. You can grab a seat, take a load off your feet. Yeah, welcome to the table. We don't tell no lies over here. This ain't no fable. We just live our lives over here. We ain't no angels. We just shine our light over here. We got the power. We just showing love over here. Everybody needs some, yeah, and we don't need a reason.